Podcasting today from our studios in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Welcome to the show that confirms safety does indeed have a personality. This is a podcast unlike any other where we talk about safety differently and get to know our guests on a completely different level. This is the show where we not only get insight and professional opinion from our special guest on current and ongoing safety themes, but we get to know them on a personal level. We even get to hear what's on their music playlist. Today, we find out what kind of music moves our guest and what safety events our guest is moved by or a part of professionally. This is Safety Debris with me, Richard DeLong, and my safety debris partner, Tanya Steele.
Hello, Richard. It is so great to be here with you again today and with our listeners. And I am very excited about our very special guest for this podcast. Tell us about him.
Well, our special guest today, Tanya, has been described by his safety colleagues as one of the most awesome, humble, and multi-talented people in the world. He's known as a safety leader in our industry, having provided guidance, mentorship, and education through a variety of professional and volunteer roles in both Central and Eastern Canada. He also has been described by colleagues as a person who continues to be a positive influence and a reminder that our profession is responsible for demonstrating compassion and caring through all of our actions. In addition, he's a talented musician, playing and recording with his own bands over the years and collaborating one-on-one with other musicians on a variety of musical projects and interests. He's originally from Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, and resides in Bridgewater. He's married to Janice. They have 4 adult kids, 6 grandkids. He's a consultant. He has his own business. It's called Workplace Performance Management. Ladies and gentlemen, please join Tanya and me in welcoming Stewart Franck to Safety Debris.
It's so great to have you here, Stewart.
Thank you so much. This is quite an honor. I'm thrilled, and I very much look forward to speaking with you for the next few moments.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, we asked you before the podcast to tell us about your favorite song. And you stated to us, I have so many friends that tease me, is every song your favorite song? You said being a patriotic Canadian, it has to be O Canada that tops your list, tied with Hockey Night in Canada theme. And who are we to say anything different about those two incredible songs?
Wow, hockey in Canada and O Canada. I remember singing O Canada at the top of my lungs in an American bar restaurant when Sidney Crosby scored the winning goal at the Olympics.
Yes.
And I just forced everybody to get up and sing. Oh, even Americans were singing along with me. It was just such a patriotic moment.
Well, then let's gather all our Canadian fans and our American friends and just hum along to this little beauty. Wow, it's incredible how many versions were to choose from on that one. That one seems a wee bit slow, but it was still good. Brings back Saturday night on around the TV.
I hate to say this to you folks out in Western Canada, but go Leafs, go.
Yeah.
We still love you, Stewart. And as a fellow Canadian and a daughter of a Canucks fan, I agree about those two choices of music for sure. And so tell us, since we're talking about music, we're starting off here with music. Tell us about the other favorite song you shared with us that strikes a personal chord with you that we wouldn't necessarily have guessed on our own.
To me, well, I spent a little bit of time in Jamaica, and I got turned on to reggae music and Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and all those folks. It's just fabulous spiritual music. It's so uplifting. One Love strikes a real chord with me because it talks about, people coming together and working on problems and solving all the world's issues, and we can do this. We can accomplish that. And that song is so hopeful to me, and like a lot of other reggae songs.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Hear the children crying. One love. Hear the children crying. One heart. Saying, give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright.
Yeah, that is a great song. And I didn't realize this, Stuart, and maybe you knew this because you lived down there, but that was his first single, and he released it back in 1965. Did you know that?
I didn't know what year that was, but it was quite
Yeah.
early. It was I lived in Kingston, Jamaica around 1970-ish for a while, and it was a big hit. All those Bob Marley hits were huge back then.
Yeah, so that still would have been fairly young on the charts back 65, 70. Yeah, so it would still been just a few years old. But I've been to Jamaica once and did the tour of his home and saw his crypt with he's buried in this or he's buried in the crypt at his home, and his mom is next to him in her own crypt, which is very cool. But I did learn there that his mom was, of course, a native Jamaican. But his dad also native Jamaican, but he was white, and I didn't realize that until then that he was actually a mulatto, and so yeah, very interesting story about Bob Marley there.
I totally never knew that.
Yeah, yeah. So and the other thing I learned about Bob Marley then was I thought he died of brain cancer, and it wasn't. It was melanoma.
Mm.
He died of skin cancer, and that's what he suffered from. And yeah, he died in I think his 1981. So anyway, we've got his music and we love it. And yeah, it's got a great groove, and what a fun genre of music to listen to. It's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so great. Even right now during this time, music really has been a healer for a lot of people. And we hope that if you are listening and you are driving in your car right now or wherever you are, that the music that we're playing for you uplifts you as a safety professional, because it's tough. It's a tough time right now, and music really has a way of bringing everybody together and feel like you're connected.
So Stuart, you worked in the mining and chemical industries, and you were a graduate of computer sciences. Why did you end up choosing safety as a career?
That's an interesting question that came about quite by, I shouldn't say by accident, that would be a terrible pun, but we having, looking for work after I went back to school to finish off school when I was, 30. I already was married and had a couple children, and so when I graduated, I started looking around. It was hard to find jobs that suited what I needed to raise the family, and so I saw a job advertised in safety, and I thought, well, maybe I could do this. Having worked in mining where safety is drilled into you, I can still recite some of the things that we learned before we went underground every day, and also working in the chemical industry, a lot of auditing processes going on there. I learned a lot about that, and so I thought, well, maybe I I could use this. So I rejigged my resume a little bit. No, I didn't lie about anything, but I kind of focused on some of the safety related things, and I got the job, not knowing how difficult it was to be a safety professional, to manage safety in a large organization. Um, we had about 4,000, 5,000 employees and about 90 locations. And I
Wow.
was very, very green. And 2 weeks into the job, I went to my boss and I said, I'm not the person for this job. If you knew what you wanted, you would never have hired me. So you must have someone else that you can call that's more qualified. And they were so wonderful to me. They said, we hired you because we want you. And they said, they threw at me, whatever it would take, whatever it takes to help you do the job successfully,
Wow.
we will support you. So, you know, that was just amazing. That was at the Niagara South Board of Education. I was living in Ontario at the time, and they, I have so much to thank them for.
Nice. It's not uncommon for in safety for people to sort of fall into safety by an employer because we like you and, oh, you're HR, congratulations, we knight you, the safety person or a supervisor or somebody who's maybe been injured at work, and well, maybe now you can do the safety, because employers really don't know everything that it does entail, what actually it looks like to be a safety professional. And so, Stewart, what would you say to an employer who's listening right now to say, hey, listen, when you're looking for a safety person, or this is how you would support somebody who really doesn't know too much about safety? What would you say to them?
In today's times, we are so lucky. We have organizations like the Canadian Society of Safety Engineering. They have the hiring guide for safety professionals. And I would just give them that and say, here, this is the picture of the person that you need. Go through there and hire that person. When I worked in mining early on, the safety captain or the safety manager was the person who had the worst, sorry, it was the shift boss or the manager that had the worst safety record in the previous year. As a punishment, they would make him, because they're all males at that time, they would make him the safety manager for the next year. It was a bit of a, it was a joke. Make sure that you find the person that has the interest. He or she may not have all the skills necessary, all the education necessary right away. Now we have more people that are graduating with safety backgrounds, safety, diplomas and certificates and degrees, which is great. But back then we had none of that. And so find that suitable person and make sure they're the right fit for the organization, because just because they're highly educated doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do the job well. You got to relate to people. And if you can't listen to people and relate to people and really make people right here in your heart and your mind, make them part of everything that you do, every decision you make, then you're not going to be successful. And the company, the employer is not going to be successful unless they have the right person in that job.
I had the opportunity to work on the hiring guide way back when the first original one with Bruce Jackson, extraordinary man. I can't take any credit for it. I just showed up at the meetings and Bruce really guided us through all the education, because he was just so knowledgeable in all the safety professional designations and the different types of training all over the world. And he created this hiring guide, as you said, which is truly spectacular. And I hand it out quite regularly as well. And so let me ask you this question. How important is it for safety professionals and those aspiring to be in this profession pursue education, training, and designations?
It's quite important to be at least accepted in the field. People are looking for professional designations because they may not know what else to look for. And so if you have that degree, diploma, certificate, that the professional designation, the CHSC or CRSP or CIH or ROH, those are really important designations to have, and they're a testament to what you've learned and what you've put into your own career and developed it. They're not everything, but it's a real good start. However, it doesn't matter how many degrees or certificates you have under your belt until you do the job for a while. You get lots of experience. I keep saying that, you need a degree in medicine, law, industrial psychology, you
I'm
know,
out.
you need all of these things in one package. And it's like 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. You start with one piece and you start putting it all together, and you get the edges and you start to fill little things in. That's how we are
Mhm.
Yeah.
as safety professionals. I'm not totally filled in yet. I've still got some holes that I gotta find to patch up, and every time I meet
Yeah.
someone, I learn more. Every
I like
job
that.
I do, I learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I like that analogy, Stuart. That's a good way to put it. I'm not full yet. I'm still putting on some pieces here. Um, yeah, and I have to agree with you. This is a people business, right? It's how you relate to other people. So I can't disagree with that. And of course, I have had the pleasure of meeting you on at least two other occasions, and you may recall, both at the CSSE conferences. The first was in 2018 at Niagara Falls, and then the following year in 2019 in Winnipeg, where I had the opportunity and pleasure to be the MC for both conferences, and that was a lot of fun. And of
Great
course,
job, by
the
the way.
stories. What's that?
It was a great job. You did a wonderful job, and it made the conferences so much more enjoyable for everyone that attended.
Well, thank you, Stuart. Those are kind words. I appreciate that very much. That's very kind. And it's funny because being the MC, people are always coming up to you, asking you questions. They have suggestions, they have ideas. They're telling you what happened in their circles and what's gone on with them at the show. And of course, the stories came to light the next day. I learned that you were an instigator of fun and good times with guitar in tow, which is a good a good reputation to have. But there was a buzz about this impromptu concert, and I'm thinking more along the lines the one in Niagara Falls, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that you helped to organize a little impromptu get together with other fellow CSSE musicians, and you got into this club or this restaurant that was dead quiet. And by the time the night was done, when you shut her down, she was packed to the rafters, and everybody had a great old time. Is that any close proximity to the truth of that night?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's lying. I remember that night.
The bar actually, I actually had visited the bar early in the day, and I said you should have a couple extra staff on board, and you might want to check your supplies of food and your bar. And well, we emptied the bar. They ran out of alcohol.
There you go.
So something about those safety people. We consumed an awful lot that day, and we had a lot of fun. It was some people from all over Canada, in Nunavut, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia, and Ontario, and I think maybe Bob was there from out in Vancouver, out in Edmonton. Sorry, and I think it was just great to see everybody come together.
So we can't help but notice there, Stuart, in behind you, it looks like a jam room. We know you're a musician, and looks like you got a drum kit set up. There's a select few guitars hanging up on the wall. Apparently you play a few things.
I spend some time down here with my friends, or even just on my own, just strumming a few songs and that kind of thing. And we doing some recording and some writing. This is kind of a old favorite song of mine by Van Morrison. We were born before the wind. Little sailors here in Nova Scotia. Also younger than the sun. Here the bonnie boat was one as we sail into the misty. Hark now, hear the sailors cry. Feel the wind and touch the sky. Let your soul and senses fly into the misty. that cold fall cold blows, I will be coming home. Oh yeah. And when that fall cold blows, I wanna feel it. No, I don't wanna fear it tonight. Just wanna rock your gypsy soul, just like way back in the days of old. And majestically we will flow into the mystic.
Really nice.
Great song, isn't it?
That
Oh,
was
that's lovely.
awesome.
Van
Right
Morrison's
here.
amazing.
Thank you for
Stewart Franck. Yeah. That is a real treat. Thank you, Stewart. That was really nice. I enjoy that. I'm sure you feel the same, Tanya. I love people that pick up guitars just impromptu, and it's just so much fun. People just collect and just want to sit and listen and hum and sing along. It's fun. It's great stuff. Thank you.
You mentioned earlier about music being a stress relief, and we need that. And music certainly does that for me. It always has.
Yeah, and I love it because not only do I love music, but I can't play anything. So I always find it really extraordinary. I'm like, this is amazing. And then when somebody can pick up 2 or 3 musical instruments, it really is a special gift that you've worked hard at, and I can't do any of it. So I always sit in awe of people who do that. So thanks.
I'll
So-
give you a warning now, and maybe a bass solo next. So watch.
So Tanya didn't inherit the musicianship genes from your dad, because I understand he played the Skins. He was a drummer.
He was a drummer, and I grew up with drums. And I was telling Stewart, I said, we had a room that looked just like the room that he's sitting in. And my dad would play drums on the weekend. He would practice. And as a kid, I would sit in the hallway and go, I'd want to be a drummer. But back then, women just didn't really do those kinds of things. And I think I picked it up a couple times, and he just went, oh, I love you, honey. And it was it was just something I just wasn't good at. And so,
You want to hurt your feelings.
he played in a band. He
Stunt your
sang.
growth.
I don't got any of it. None of it.
Well, that's okay. You're lovely in many other ways, and we appreciate them.
Yes,
So
you are.
I know your dad does too.
Consider safety as a career, dear.
Yeah. You be a leader in safety. Leave the drumming to me. Yeah, you know what? And we talked about COVID here being a bit of a challenge, but there's lots of challenges, Stewart, for employers. I think every employer has experienced the challenge of hiring and retaining qualified people. It seems there's a bit of a labor shortage right across the board. What are some of the challenges you have seen companies experience when it comes to attracting young workers into the health and safety field?
Some of the challenges are not necessarily even opening their eyes to young people that are out there that right in front of them that could fill openings, and maybe giving people more of a chance. I still come across employers that are always looking for that person with the right amount of experience, a number of years of experience, and that's a real small pool of people. It's getting smaller. I'm not coming out of retirement to do some hard work anymore. A lot of people are just not working, and those real good talented experienced people, they have jobs, and they're probably not going to leave those jobs, and you're much better off to find people that want to work for you and help them become that model employee that you want. Help them help them to grow out of your employment into someone else. And nothing better than helping people move on to that next job. Because if you really want to invest in your people, they're probably going to stay. And you train them, you make them the best that they can be, and recognize them. I had my very first paycheck I had when I worked in the mines, and I left after school and went up to northern Manitoba, not knowing what I was getting into, working in the underground in the mines. And I had my very first paycheck, and the mine captain ripped my check in half. Said, "This is for coming to work every day, doing the amount of work, the quality of work that we want you to do. And this other half is for doing it safely, for not getting hurt, not injuring other people, following those policies and procedures and whatnot. And that, this person didn't know it, but he made a safety nerd out of me right there at 18.
Wow.
If we had somebody who was new listening online right now and they're driving and they're in a place of, man, I'd really like to get into the safety stuff and I don't know, how can I stand out to an employer? What would you tell them?
The formal and the informal education is really important. Surround yourself with positive people. It's so contagious, and you can you can find out what works. Find those success stories and follow those lines, because there's probably other kinds of stories that go along with them. And people that are successful really like to share, really like to talk about their successes and share that. They don't sell it necessarily. They want to give it away. And there are so many people that you can learn from. If you're a new person, let's say if you're working in safety. If not, I would really highly recommend people get into the safety career, because it's been really good to me. And
What's your secret to success then, Stewart? What would you say?
I've been very lucky. There's a certain amount of luck involved as well. You get really great people around you. They're gonna help you. And there's some wonderful mentors I had that had lots of experience, and you're going to make mistakes, and you have to learn from those mistakes and be able to take it on the chin a little bit, maybe once in a while, fall down, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. You want to catch people doing stuff right, and you want to build upon that, and celebrate every single success you have along the way. Yeah. There are textbooks, there are systems out there. Maybe believe some of that, but create your own systems, and find out what works best for you. There are all kinds of models out there that people will say you have to do safety this way. Mm-hmm. Well, find another way, find your own way, and you will get there. You take part of that, what you want, what turns you on about that, and learn from it.
It's nice. I love 3 things that you said. Number 1, find your own way. I think that's so important. Number 2, celebrate every success, no matter how big or small. And, we talk about mentorship a lot. And a lot of people have come on and said, I've been a mentor, or I got mentorship. And, to tell our listeners, like, that's something that we do on purpose. Like, we say, hey, grab mentors, but sometimes we don't say how. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I don't know if Richard, if you've done this as well, I assume that you have, but when I was in my 20s, I on purpose put people in my life. Like, I put somebody who was older, like I was in my 20s. I made sure I had somebody in my 50s that I could go to who was an entrepreneur. I had somebody who was younger than me because I wanted to stay fun and creative. I had somebody who I wanted to be like. I had somebody who gave me emotional support, somebody who gave me entrepreneur support. And so I had 5 specific people that I wrote down their names and said, these are the people that I want to have around me and that I want to associate with for specific questions. And those people and they change throughout the years as you grow and you meet new people. But it's really something that you do on purpose. Richard, did you? I think you've done that, but
no, I've been a wreck most of my life. I didn't have that kind of foresight.
Yeah, we know that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
I call it.
But thank you for asking. So you mentioned cheerleading and being motivated. Tanya usually has a question that kind of relates to music in this vein there. Tanya, do you want to ask him what?
Yes, I do. Why, thank you for that tie-in, Richard. Yeah, so let me ask you this question, getting back to music. If you're having a bad day, what is your go-to song to cheer you up?
Oh my goodness, there's probably music in general tends to cheer me up, and I could probably list off a bunch of songs, but this one doesn't sound like it's a real happy song. It's called When the World Ends by Dave Matthews Band. And the reason why it cheers me up is that, I'm a big fan of silly love songs, anything to do with a love song. Well, One Love was in there earlier, but this is, to me, it's the greatest love song in the world. The world is falling apart. Mountains are crumbling into the sea, but Dave Matthews sings about being with the one he loves, and and loving that person, regardless of what's going on around it. So I think it's, to me, that just is always happy.
Well, it just so happens we've got that song for you here, Stuart. And in fact, we've
Beautiful.
got a couple of songs that follow it. So we're going to play a little montage of the three songs that you said you find inspiration from. And this is the first one, the Dave Matthews Band, and When the World Ends.
When the world ends, collect your things, you're coming with me. When the world ends, you tuckle up yourself with me. Watch it as the stars disappear to nothing. The day the world is over, oh, we'll be lying in bed. I'm gonna rock you like a baby. When the cities fall, we will rise as the buildings crumble, float there and watch it all. Midst the burning, we'll be churning. You know, love will be our wings. The passion rises up from the ashes. When the world ends. When I'm alone, I sometimes get to thinking how it's gonna be when we're gone. Are we moving closer together, or is it gonna take forever and ever? Let it go, let it go, let it flow like a river. Let it go, let it go, let it flow through you. Let it go, let it go, let it flow like a river. Let it go, let it go, let it flow through you. Dream that I saw her standing there. They're running for the bullets and the man. I was hit hard by the light so bright it burned. And all at once I knew she'd understand. Understand. The boy inside the man. The boy inside the man. When after 25, we were hungry, we had dry. And then I turned much older then. Ah, 'cause the boy was lost in pride. Now I just turned 31. And I have lost and I have won. Still I keep my dreams alive. Ah, 'cause the boy will never die.
Yeah, nice little medley there. So these are three songs that Stuart finds inspiration from, his little pick-me-ups every once in a while. So that was Tom Cochrane, Canada's very own. And we heard from Dave Mason and, of course, Dave Matthews. Great talents right there and nice selections. And thank you for sharing those with us, Stuart. Those were
Oh,
awesome.
you're welcome. That last one might have actually been a choice of my wife, Janice. So the boy inside the man. I think that's what she thinks I am sometimes.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I got a question about influencers in your life, and those who've inspired you professionally. Who would you list off the top three?
One of my early supervisors when I worked in the mines underground taught me a line, it's a very common line, but he used to always say, "Good enough is not good enough." We got to get the job done, especially when you're working 3,600 feet underground. A lot of things can go wrong. I worked in the chemical industry. I worked for what used to be called Union Carbide at the time. I guess the gas products part of that. And one of the nicest people I've ever known. He was a really miserable curmudgeon when I first met him, but he turned out to be one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life.
That's like my experience with Richard.
His name was Bill Roberts. So he was just a fine gentleman. And also the people like I worked with at the school district early on. They were just wonderful. And I worked in automotive, and I met some people down in South America that were just fantastic. Like I was trying to instill safety systems from North America in Brazil. And I found out they taught me how the safety systems in Brazil are far superior than what we're doing in North America.
Wow.
And so I had to come back and sell the Brazilian systems to the rest of North America and say, we had to follow these people. And so, you know, I still get the odd email from those folks down there saying, you know, thank you. They're thanking me, but it was all their work. And, you know, they were such motivators.
So, Stuart, you noticed the difference in the culture, I guess we'll say that, from Brazil to where you were working and practicing on the East Coast. So would you say there's a vast difference between what happens on the East Coast to Central Canada, to Ontario, to the West Coast? Would you say that it's similar, or are we all on the same page, or are we kind of not?
Our body temperatures are somewhat the same as across, and people are people, and I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. We sometimes look at these artificial political barriers and lines drawn on a map to separate people from one province to another or one country to another, but we're really all the same. There was a time that we were trying to harmonize confined space entry regulations in Canada, and we couldn't do it because we were arguing over 0.5% of oxygen in different jurisdictions. You know,
Right.
oxygen content, and like, does it matter? we're not going to die from that, but we are going to die if we don't do anything about this. People could sometimes manufacture barriers and obstacles rather than just what can we do and how would you do it?
So, just to go back to some music here, Stuart, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I once, I think you once said that you invited certain musicians to come for dinner. Jane Seabury comes to mind, and she didn't show. Was that was that like a one-on-one? Were you married at the time? You said, "Hey, come on over, meet my wife," or was that you were single and like, "I like her. I think I'd like to meet her."
I wasn't trying to pick her up, Richard.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to get some clarity there. Yeah. Okay. No worries. And it wouldn't be a shame if you were, unless you were married.
I was married, had 2 young children, and my wife and I had seen her in concert and her band
Right.
in concert, and we invited them over for supper, and we just wanted to hang out with them. They're just such special people. She writes such wonderful music. And in my view, maybe the most underrated Canadian songwriter musician.
Yeah. She writes really intellectual lyrics. I would say she's a musician's musician. You get to choose who you like. And you obviously had her on your playlist along with a few others, because you're a big fan, of course, of the Beatles and Dave Matthews, as we heard earlier. You absolutely love Radiohead, which is very cool. So you're a big Canadiana fan, because I see lots of Canadian musicians in your playlist. Maybe you can just, I've got some of your favorites lined up here, and they're not all Canadian, mind you, but I thought maybe we could listen to this quick little montage of some of your favorite songs on your playlist.
Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am home again. Whenever I'm alone with you, you make me feel like I am whole again.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite albums by the Beatles, Abbey Road. What a great song, Come Together. We also heard in there, all the way from Kingston, Ahead by a Century. That's Tragically Hip. And of course, one of your all time favorites there, one of your favorite bands, Stewart The Cure and Love Song. So, yeah, they've got a really cool groove to their sound. They really stick out amongst many other musicians. So yeah, good choices. Nice playlist
Yeah, I
indeed.
still do love song, but back to my sappy love song fetish, I guess. But I still do love song. And every band I play in, I always find a way to slip it into the song list.
We've been listening to lots of music, which has been spectacular. But what other things do you listen to for personal growth or professional growth? Like, are you a reader? Do you listen to podcasts?
Probably do too much music and not enough professional development. But I'm always taking courses and things, whether they're just things offered here locally through the Department of Labor or through the Chamber of Commerce or the college or whatever I can find of interest to expand my horizons and my interests more so. And taking some digital marketing and building websites and that sort of stuff. And I do a lot of reading, mostly periodicals and safety online blogs and whatnot, respecting health and safety and other topics. But I'd probably lately I've been reading too much stuff on politics,
Oh,
which is not a good thing. And I've lately weaned myself off of that.
now you mentioned a blog or a book. Is there something that you would recommend to our listeners that you would say, hey, I want to plug these? These guys are great. You should check it out.
I'm rereading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Mechanics again, but that's always a fun read.
Are you are you a motorcycle guy?
I have an old Norton Commando motorcycle, an old British motorcycle, 1975,
Wow.
that keeps me busy.
Wow, you are like cooler and cooler as we talk to you here.
Well, I don't know how cool it is getting dirty hands and pushing things around, but anyway, it's a lot of fun.
So Stuart, let me ask you about some challenges that you have faced in the safety industry, if any. How did you overcome them?
An added problem of being a consultant and trying to get people interested in safety, but you're also trying to sell your services and yourself. And I find that it's really difficult for me to take that on. So I end up doing a lot of work for nothing, and which is not really good to work for free. But talk about safety needs and do assessments of people's needs and how you're going to help them to meet those needs and see their way through it. And to maybe it's a startup company where they need to get through those startup phases and need to ramp up their employees and get them properly trained and whatnot. So when you put together a plan, and it's a plan that you've developed with a lot of thought behind it, but then it's hard maybe it's hard for people to see the passion that I have, and maybe I'm only looking at dollar signs. And so try to convince people that this is what you need to do, whether you want me to do it or not. I don't really care, but these are the things that you should be looking at doing. So I try to overcome those obstacles, those barriers that way, and to whatever you do safety. It doesn't have to be through me, but find someone to help you if you can't do it on your own. The challenge is, when do you back off, and when do you let people say, we're ready, we can do this on our own now, we don't need you. And so sometimes you stick around. I don't think yet, but sometimes the tendency could be to stick around too long and not let that child grow up and go on their own to be self-sufficient.
So let me ask you your opinion here, Stuart, as we begin to make our way out of this horrible pandemic. What would What would the teaching moment look like for you, speaking to other safety professionals, or what would it look like or be for the safety professionals to take on? I mean, what is that specialty topic that we need to be focusing on?
Well, we have to, I think, shift some of our thoughts to those essential workers, those people that maybe were under recognized, undervalued before. And I look at my friend who's a long haul truck driver. He goes from Nova Scotia down to Florida and other parts of the states, bringing back goods into Canada, into Nova Scotia, and maybe taking lobster down to the states or something like that. But you know, um, before, I hate to say it, it sounds terrible, but he was just a truck driver. Now he's a real hero in
Right.
my eyes. I think he always was, but even more so now to those type of workers. Uh, Healthcare, the way that we manage our people that live in healthcare facilities, and those employees that may have been undervalued, underrecognized, maybe undertrained, and whatnot. I think we need to do a whole lot more to help those industries, those facilities uh, survive and do a much better job of what they're doing. And that's they're people industries, and boy, they better start looking after their own people, and maybe compensating them appropriately. We are going to have less of a problem of people understanding what PPE means. We've heard nothing but personal protective equipment, PPE, since the pandemic started. So that's one nice thing that's happened. We won't have to explain that every time. I look at our healthcare facilities that are overrun, and I look at we have a daughter that manages an intensive care unit in California, and she has since a COVID-19 hit, she's opened up 6 additional intensive care units on the hospital property, the lawns and the parking lots. And
Wow.
they've ordered additional body bags and have refrigerator trucks for temporary morgues outside the hospital. It's hard to think about safety and safety training when in a real major catastrophe. Um, but we had to prepare ourselves for that. I think we need to focus a lot more on the possibility of future pandemics or other future emergency situations, disaster management.
We forget that these frontline workers, truck drivers, supermarkets, nurses, they're all workers. And they have health and safety managers, health and safety professionals for them. We forget that they're workers. they're
That's
they're
right.
they're working, and this is their job that they're doing. And so if you were to speak to, health and safety professionals that may be working in any of those industries, what do you think that maybe they need to start discussing and having conversations in the workplace as we sort of see this light at the end of the tunnel for COVID? And I know life will get to whatever that new norm is, but what would you say, or what do you think might be the things that we need to really start talking about as safety professionals?
Valuing people. We need to find a way to value people, and we don't have an unlimited pot of money. For a while, essential workers and grocery store workers were they paid them a premium because they had to put in longer hours and they had to deal with excuse me, COVID on the home front as well as in the work front and put themselves at risk. Uh, we probably can't all afford to keep paying people more money all the time, but we need to find a way that we can value them. And
Yes.
I really do think that workplace safety, occupational health and safety, and hygiene and whatnot, and also um, respect in the workplace, including things such as harassment and sexual harassment and violence and bullying and that kind of thing. But basic respect in the workplace, I think, is really something that health and safety professionals need to take on.
It's true. And we need to be creative. Creative. How do we let people know that they're valued. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Stewart.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think we're going to wind down here, Stuart. But one of the things I wanted to say is that the three of us here, obviously have a common denominator. We're all in safety. We all love and appreciate music. We loved listening to you play your guitar and talk about your favorite music. And one of the things that I know that you and I have in common in regard to music is that we like the same genre quite a bit. I love alternative rock, reggae music. I'll listen to it any day. No worries there. Every day that ends in Y, I'll definitely be listening to some reggae. But I'm also known to be a sucker for a good ballad, and I understand that you are too. And so, Tanya and I usually take the liberty to pick a song and play it for our guest. And this time we've chosen two, and they're two ballads. So let's give a listen to them.
Ooh, I tried to tell you, baby, tried to tell you 1,000 times. Ooh, you wouldn't listen, baby, no matter how hard I tried. But you didn't see that I was so in love with you. Then you went to break my heart, didn't you? Where did we go wrong? Is it all my fault? Where did we go wrong? Is it all my fault? And everything is not the same now. It feels like all our lives have changed. Maybe when I'm older it'll all calm down, but it's killing me now. What if you had it all, but nobody to call? Maybe then you'd know me. 'Cause I've had everything, but no one's listening. And that's just fucking lonely. I'm so lonely, lonely.
That's a very sad song, but I don't. Are you familiar with that one, Stuart?
No, I'm not. Probably because I'm not very lonely.
And I'm glad to hear that. That happens to be Justin Bieber. That's his new song, and I thought you might appreciate it because when you listen to the lyrics and you get a chance to do that, it's not a very long song, but I thought it was very. It's I think Justin Bieber really looks inside and looks and reflects on his life. Well, it has been truly a pleasure, Stuart, getting to know you on a personal level. I really want to take a second here to say thank you for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see you in person the next time at the next CSSE conference or wherever our paths shall cross. So thanks again for joining us today.
I really do hope that we see each other in person sooner than later. And I'll be probably the person checking into the conference hotel with a guitar case. And hopefully there'll be others doing the same, bringing their instruments along. And so we can enjoy all these aspects of not only our health and safety profession, but our love for music as well.
That's awesome. So you've heard it here first from Safety Debris. If you see a gentleman checking in at the front desk of a hotel with a guitar in his backpack and he's going to a safety conference, make sure you come up and say, "Are you Stewart?"
Let's jam.
Let's jam.
Let's jam and let's play.
Jam. That's awesome. Well, don't forget to tune in next week for our next incredible safety personality.
And remember, don't let anyone tell you any different. Safety does indeed have a personality. We always like to finish our podcast focusing on music from Canada. So here's a trip down memory lane with a good BC boy. This is Valdi, and Yes, I Can.
Oh, beautiful.
On Safety Debris.
I'll be your dandy in the city. I'll be rugged if we move back to the land. I can be your Latin lover. I'll be a family man. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Anyway, Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Be your life, be your lover, be your man.